Hello and welcome to Good or Bad. We're back once more with our good friend Jason Voorhees, who is about to embark on his third killing spree in Friday the 13th, the final chapter, also known as part 4 of 10, plus a crossover and a reboot. The final chapter was released in 1984 and was directed by Joseph Zito. It stars Ted White as the crazed hockey mask killer. Yes, he murders hockey masks. No, joke's too stupid. Moving on. After a recap to help you get your Friday the 13th on, the movie kicks off on the set of part 3, with the cleanup crew from Jason's most recent massacre, as they move all the bodies, including Jason's, to the morgue. And this was the last movie in the series to pick up immediately where the last left off. And just like the last movie, this does not take place on Friday the 13th either. The opening here is Sunday the 15th, and the rest of the film takes place on the 2 days following.
Real cute girl. Was. Well, she still is.
This is Axel. He is a sex-obsessed moronic perv who comments that the dead girls are cute. Let's just cut to the part where Jason wakes up and kills him. Okay, so that stunning revelation is out of the way, let's meet our main characters. This is Tommy Jarvis, played by Corey Feldman. His hobbies are, if you can't already guess, making monster masks. I wonder how that'll play into the movie.
You're getting pretty terrific at making those things. Thanks.
And this is his mother, who is only listed as Mrs. Jarvis. So she is basically a walking corpse then. But regardless of her inevitable departure, she is played by Joan Freeman. And this is Tommy's sister, Trish. She is played by Kimberly Beck. So what would Friday the 13th be without horny idiots? They are staying in the cabins next to where the Jarvis family lives. So this time the campers aren't the main characters, they are here just to add to the body count. Well, that's a bold new move. Well, not really bold, but it is new. Not meaningful. I don't really know where I'm going with this. Oh look, a woman. Huh, Jason usually stops people from squeezing the banana. Right, so we have the obligatory skinny dipping scene. Then Trish and Tommy meet Rob, who is apparently hunting. Rob is played by Eric Anderson. He helps them fix their car when it breaks down, so they repay him with a lift. So Rob is a very suspicious character. He's asking about any kids staying in the area, and also tells us that he's hunting, and when asked what he hunts, he gives some bullshit answer about hunting bears in a place where apparently there are no bears. But I'm sure it's nothing. They invite him into their home and he checks out all the masks in Tommy's room. Meanwhile, these guys are partying, trying to get laid, and pretty much just waiting around for Jason to kill them. Rob goes to set up camp outdoors while Jason strikes again. One of the girls from the cabin broke away for a little solo swim. It didn't go so well. Then when her friend turns up, it doesn't go so well for him either. But I guess Rob was nearby because he heard the guy screaming. While he goes to investigate, he turns around and sees someone near his tent. Guess Jason didn't want them having guns. Although I don't know why Jason didn't just kill him there and then, but I suppose he does have dialogue and he is wearing clothes, so he may have to wait until later in the movie to be killed off. Case in point, he kills the girl wearing her PJs and a raincoat. Ah, he's working his way up, you see. I calculate in about 15 minutes he'll be able to tackle denim wear. Mrs. Jarvis wonders why no one is home, not even Gordon, the family dog. She goes outside to shout for him, and then gets attacked by a screeching first-person camera. Trish and Tommy get home to find a grand total of no one. Trish tells Tommy to stay put while she goes out looking for their mother. She finds Rob's tent and decides she must go into it. At which point she finds a misunderstanding. Rob comes clean about what he is doing there, which is essentially hunting Jason down. You see, Jason killed his sister Sandra during the events of the second movie, and he wants revenge. Trish argues that Jason is dead, and she knows this because she saw it on the news at the start of the film. But Rob says that the body went missing from the morgue and 2 nurses turned up dead. While they rush back to the house to get Tommy, Jason continues to pick off the absolutely essential characters that weren't in any way, shape or form included in this movie just to give Jason more to do. Now I know what you're thinking, but in part 3 they had characters that were there just to kill off and add flavour, which is true and I gave praise for that. But here's the difference, right? It felt natural to the story and they used the kill count buffers of the biker gang to develop our main characters and it just worked. But here we have one family and Rob, which is cool, and then we have the partying teenagers that seem to be placed in the movie just to check that box. And honestly, the deaths aren't even that good. Occasionally we get one that looks cool, but most of them are quite dull. But anyway, they get back to the house and they even manage to get the power back on, which is right when Jason cuts the phone line. Which is nicely timed given that they were about to call out. So before, when they realise that Jason is on the loose, and Tommy is on his own, potentially with a mass murderer lurking around the next corner, so they hurry back to him, which is the right thing to do. So the logical thing to do now would be to leave him on his own while they go and check on the kids next door. Nah, that would be brain dead stupid.
Tommy, hold the fort.
Fucking brilliant. They find the bodies and panic begins. Jason attacks and Rob jumps in to give Trish a chance to escape, but she just stands there and watches, thus completely wasting the chance that Rob gave her. Okay, I will admit it, I do like how the bodies are scattered around the place as she tries different exits. The earlier films did do this as well, but it still looks cool here. She manages to get back to Tommy and starts nailing down the windows. I'd like to see Jason get through that. Ah. No. Try hitting him, not in the mask. See? Much better idea. I mean, he's still going to get up and try and kill you, but it's progress. Oh, now that might just do it. See, that's what I like about old school tech. A modern day flat screen just wouldn't have had that same knockback. Jason gets back up and Trish leads him away from Tommy. She gives him a runaround, falls out of a window, then heads back home to find, much to her dismay, that Tommy hadn't run away. Instead, he uses the time to put his skills to the test. He uses a newspaper clipping to make himself look like Jason when he was a boy, which if it was literally anyone else wouldn't work at all. But Jason, being as stupid as he is, slows down enough for them to land a killing blow. But one hit? With Jason? No, that's never gonna work. So Tommy decides to go the extra mile. No, wait, forget the extra mile. He goes the extra 5 miles. Even if that does make him look batshit insane. So they go to the hospital and they are told what he did was perfectly normal and he will be just fine. Or will he be fine? I mean, let's take a closer look at Tommy Jarvis throughout this movie. From the beginning, he was very enthusiastic towards the world of monsters, but hey, it was a hobby. He also spied on girls while they were undressed, just as Jason did, and in the end became Jason to defeat him. Even the boy's mother was killed just as Jason's was. Combine that with the final shot of the film where Tommy opens his eyes, suggesting that Jason may very well live on in Tommy. And yes, the later movies do push this idea forwards a little, but are ultimately ditched in favour of resurrecting Jason. But hey, that's not this movie's fault. So how was the final chapter? Simply put, not as good as part 3, or the original. And honestly, I think even part 2 was better. And I think it comes down to the fact that the vast majority of characters were not essential to the main story. We had our main characters, the Jarvis family and Rob, who even then had his revenge story cut short. Perhaps, though, the reason for this was that Rob was supposed to have high-tech gear to track Jason down, but they couldn't get the props to look good enough, so we have what we see before us. The rest of them add zero character and zero impact on the movie other than shedding some blood, which really drags the movie down in my opinion. They could have instead focused entirely on Rob's revenge story with the Jarvis family as the imminent victims of Jason. The film could have utilised paranoia on Rob's part, which would play into his obsession that was barely touched upon, and the film would have explored something new in the franchise rather than half-arsing it and just doing the same thing again. So yeah, the movie acknowledged the need for change in these films, but lacked the conviction to change it completely. They only did it halfway. You can't put the focus on a family and a revenge story and also do the same thing as before, because then you split the attention, which is very detrimental to the movie. You can't do both. Do one or the other, or you get a film full of filler characters that don't add anything to the movie at all. As for the soundtrack, it was fine. It did a decent job building suspense just like the earlier movies. However, the only problem is we have seen and heard it all before, which to be fair isn't really a fault with the soundtrack, but more of an issue with the movie as a whole. And the effects were okay. They didn't really push the boat out or anything. They certainly weren't as good as Part 3. They took risks with 3D effects and more elaborate kills, which makes this movie look stale by comparison. That being said, there are worse slasher movies out there, some of which also feature Jason as well. So if you just like watching Jason kill people, you can do worse, but you can also do better. You have been watching Good or Bad, and I'll see you next time.